Making the leap from law firm to in-house feels like freedom. There's no more billable hours, there's work-life balance, you're leaving the partners behind. Sounds amazing. And it is, right? Well, almost. There's one career-making mistake that you can make as a new in-house counsel. Hi, I'm Candice Quinn, founder of Contract Hack, and I want to help lawyers in transition avoid the number one mistake new in-house counsel make when moving from a law firm to in-house. Here's the truth most lawyers do not realize. There is a change in mindset that comes from moving from a law firm to in-house. And if you get this wrong, it can be a career ender. So today, I want to expose the number one way that new in-house counsel mess up on the job and potentially set their career and their reputation back a few steps. This is the one that quietly kills credibility, frustrates the business, and strains your role in the company. Stay with me, because if you're making this mistake, it's costing you much more than you think. At a law firm, your role is clear. You spot issues, you summarize those issues in a memo, you give it to the client, and they review it under their own business priorities and risk tolerance. And you as the lawyer from the law firm don't have any say on the actual decision that is made or not made by the client. But when you move in-house, that all changes because in-house lawyers are expected to make decisions and make recommendations that takes into account the business's priorities and risk tolerance. You might be the client's lawyer, but the client is the business, and the business is made up of all of the people that run all the components of it. So really, your internal clients are the salespeople, the executives, the product team, whoever is coming to you with any issue, that's your internal client. And you have to be able to present issues in a way to them that makes sense and gives them a tangible advice that they can follow or not follow based on their own business decision. Let me tell you my story from moving in-house and how I made this mistake. One of my first tasks was to review an NDA for a sales deal. So it was basically so we could try and sell the customer something. And I took that NDA and I redlined it like I was at a law firm. I was hitting all of the points. I was really proud of it. I thought I was showing my value. And I gave it back to sales. It wasn't that long before the CFO, my boss, called me into his office and he's like, Candice, just talked to the VP of sales and she said this NDA is going to piss the prospect off. And I thought about it and I'm like, oh, she's probably right. Like, I redlined it a lot. That's a lot of red for an NDA. Instead of getting mad at me, my boss sat down with me and we looked at the NDA together, and he helped me pragmatically focus on what the real issues were and what we were really trying to protect by signing an NDA before starting the sales process with a prospect. And once I had that context, I was able to redo my red lines in a way that was much less red, we'll say, but also much more pragmatic and met with the business's goals and priorities for this specific circumstance that I was working with. I learned that day that my job wasn't to block every risk. It was to highlight the risks and suggest ways that the business could mitigate them, not to lose deals altogether. Over time, I got better at making recommendations that aligned with business risk tolerance and business priorities and goals without focusing on all the down the rabbit hole kind of issues that law firms really get swamped in a lot of times. In fact, I eventually earned an MBA so that I had a paper document to showcase the actual practical experience I had with business decisions and being a strategic business partner with the company I worked for. So why does this happen? Well, it's not because attorneys coming from firms aren't smart. Of course they're smart. Like, they were at this probably very big firm and were very smart, are very smart. It happens because lawyers aren't taught in school or in law firms to think pragmatically or with a business focus. We're taught to think like lawyers, which is all full of issues and theory that may not actually apply in the real world business situations that we face while in-house. And also, let's be honest, outside counsel, if you're in a deal and outside counsel are on the other side, you're immediately going to realize that the deal is going to bog down. The outside counsel are paid to redline, they're paid by the hour, so they're going to redline everything they can. They also want to avoid malpractice claims, so they're going to list every issue that they see. And unless somebody from the business side is actually focusing on what their outside counsel is doing and calling them on it, you're going to get a bunch of red lines, and the deal's going to slow down and maybe even stall because of immaterial issues that don't affect the real concerns of the parties in the deal. So what does the business really want from you? Well, I like to call it the strategic business partner, because what they want is someone to highlight the issues, establish which are real risks that could materialize and which risks fall into real risks that the business cares about at that point in time. And this is all very specific to each company, each organization, but each one will have different priorities and different risk tolerances. And it's your job as the attorney to understand those concepts and understand where each risk falls within the business's tolerance level. In other words, the business person that you're talking to, they just want you to be pragmatic. They just want the issues set forth. They don't want the legalese. Instead of saying, there's indemnity issues with this, they want to hear we could lose millions of dollars if this happens. And then they want to hear what is the likelihood that this happens. And that's how they base their decision. If something is important enough, they will take on a lot of risk in order to make that deal happen or move towards a specific goal. So how do you avoid the trap? First off, always make a recommendation. You can give the business person options, but always give a legal recommendation based on what you know of the business's priorities and risk tolerance and what you know the reality of this risk outcome could be. 2, speak the business's language. They talk usually in terms of money. And so if you talk in terms of losing money or making money, they're going to understand that really quickly and understand that that's a tangible risk or not a tangible risk. And it's the best way to talk to the company. 3, you need to get comfortable with imperfection. You are never going to have a steel-tight contract. You are never going to have a steel-tight deal when you're in-house. There is always going to be some level of risk that you're accepting, and you need to be okay with that. If you're that conservative with risk, then maybe in-house is not the right position for you, and you should focus on the law firm outlining of all the risks. 4th, understand the business priorities. And this is a really big one along with the business's risk profile. You really need to understand what the business's goal is right now. And it could be different from deal to deal. One might be a very strategic deal and one might be a deal that they, pie in the sky kind of idea. And so you need to understand it for each deal and as a whole in order to make the best recommendations possible based on the business's goals and viewpoints. The bottom line is if you want to succeed in-house, you need to stop thinking like a law firm lawyer and start thinking like a business partner. You are in the business now, and you need to think about how to make money. How is money going to be made? If you're stopping making money, that's going to be a problem for the business. So you always need to figure out how to keep those dollars flowing and not put up that roadblock. You want to be the lawyer who guides the decisions and helps make them, not the lawyer who says no to everything. Don't become the Department of No, as in NO. So if you're stepping into an in-house role or thinking about making the move, why don't you schedule a strategic discovery call with me? The link is in the description below, and we can chat through what things you might face as you start your transition. If this video resonated with you, go ahead and hit that like button below and drop me a comment to let me know what you're struggling with moving in-house, or what you think might be the biggest thing you struggle with when you move in-house. Remember, being a great lawyer isn't enough. You have to come armed with solutions that are focused on solving real problems that the business faces. Till the next time, hackers, bye.